Dr. Jaffe, can you talk to us about RAST IgE testing, skin testing? Can you compare and contrast that to the LRA by ELISA Act test, please?
Right, so you bring me back to the late 1960s when two very important scientists, one named Gell and the other named Coombs, developed an understanding of the different types, the different categories, very different reactive aspects of the human immune defense and repair system. So you have type 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's 4. And scientists are pretty pragmatic. They name things like 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, not too complicated. But type 1 reactions are completely different than type 2, 3, 4. Turns out that type 1 reactions are known as histaminic, that is, they are immediate. For example, you take a bite of the strawberry and you get hives or wheezes or itching or anaphylactic reactions within a very short period of time, usually seconds to minutes. So a good history gives you the type 1 information, and you can confirm that by conventionally done skin testing or by blood serum RAST testing, but it tells you nothing about the very important delayed pathways. So you have one immediate pathway, and that's IgE mediated. That's called reagin. If you go back to Ishizaka, I like to acknowledge the people who did the original work. Where we have contributed is the first functional test, the first ex vivo test, the first test that measures in the laboratory what happens in the body in regard to types 2, 3, and 4. Now, what are types 2 and 3 and 4? Well, type 2 is antibody related. They're called B as in bursa, B cells, that when properly programmed, produce a protein, a molecule, called an antibody. And it reacts against something foreign like an antigen. Generally, antibodies are specific, sometimes they're non-specific. Generally, antibodies are helpful, sometimes they're not. And herein lies a big issue, because it's easy to measure in the serum whether there's an IgG type of memory antibody present. That's easy to do, commonly done. Except it doesn't give you the critical information about whether it's a helpful, neutralizing, or harmful complement-fixing IgG antibody. For that, you need a cell culture, an LRA lymphocyte response assay. Type 3 are known as immune complexes. Sometimes you have enough excess foreign antigen and also antibody against the antigen that the harmful IgG and antigen complex elicits an IgM, big, recent molecule known as an IgM antibody, to wrap around the IgG antigen. It's called an immune complex. And this is important in temporal arteritis, it's important in glomerulonephritis and other similar, what are called immune complex diseases. Then we get to probably the most important of all. The most important of all is probably type 4. These are mediated by T cells. The T cells are named for the thymus because they traffic through and mature in the thymus. This is a gland in your chest. They also are helped and mature in the skin when you get sun on your skin. And so the T cells for type 4, the immune complexes for type 3, the antibody B cells for type 2 are all measured in a single autologous ex vivo lymphocyte response assay. Now, you do have to avoid certain things for a few days. You do have to have water for only 12 hours or water only for 12 hours just before the blood is taken. The blood has to be taken without damage or activation of blood clotting or damage to the immune cells, and then shipped carefully, cold but not too cold, so that metabolism slows way down in transit. And then in our laboratory, we bring it back up to body temperature. We incubate it in a very special microtiter plate, think of many dishes on a piece of plastic, for a few hours at body temperature. And then under a microscope, we actually look at, we actually record, we actually observe the lymphocyte activation. Now, each well has a specific item. It could be radish, it could be toxic metal, it could be a medication, but each well has a different substance coated on it. And every one of our tests has a negative and positive control. So we want to make sure the cells aren't activated before they get to the lab, that the negative is negative. And we also want to make sure the cells can respond. That's called the positive control. And we compare everyone with themselves based on their negative and positive control. And we have less than 3% variance on over 4,000 consecutive blind split samples over 3+ years. Reported at the American Society for Investigative Pathology, Experimental Biology a few years ago. And we have long been able to confirm reproducibility of less than 3% variance on all blind splits, and often even better than that, which means we are reproducible. And in the world of cell culture, reproducibility is actually a big deal. So we have a new generation of tests. They are functional. They are based on live cells. It's a cell culture. It is ex vivo. These are reactions occurring just as they do in the body. And so it's a new generation of tests. It's been available since the early 80s, but we've done multiple outcome studies, community-based studies to show that this program is really effective over a few months in adding life to years and years to life, based on technology, but also empathetic and compassionate understanding of how to explain the results and put them into a personalized plan that people can actually do, implement, including with health coaching as needed. So we want a makeover based on evidence, but also experience. And that's why the LRA by ELISA ACT test is so different from, say, IgE RAST testing or skin testing.